Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers. Hello, Brewer fans. Welcome back to another edition of the Brew Crew Review Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Vince Travato, joined here on the set by the great man himself, Mr. Scott Bartell, and Craig Mueller. Guys, how's it going tonight?
Meh.
Fair to middling.
Fair to middling. I mean, guys, this is like our 90th podcast or something. So we can probably do better with that answer, but we'll roll with it for now.
I'll do
Brewers
better.
Brewers
do better. How's
that? Yeah. We can start with that. This is our trade deadline episode, but we do have a series since our last podcast here in Oakland. Unfortunately, the Brewers go 1-2 in the series. They do lose game 3 here today, 5-3. So things did not go like we had hoped and anticipated in Oakland. Guys, what's your quick take on the series that just ended against the A's?
Our dominant closer, Josh Hader, gave up 2 crucial game-costing home runs. Otherwise, we would have swept the series, I guess. Possibly.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess normally that's not going to happen, especially in a park that doesn't necessarily yield that many home runs. But what can you do?
Yeah, and Josh has been a little bit more prone to the long ball this year than last year. We've seen him do this in a few games, I guess. Are you guys concerned at all about Josh Hader, or is this just sort of a blip in the radar screen? And I guess the other question, should Craig Counsell have thrown Hader today knowing that he hasn't pitched 3 games in a row all season up to this point?
I personally think, it's not like he threw a heck of a lot of pitches in the first 2 games, so I'm pretty much fine with that, especially because, this is a team that really desperately needs pretty much every win if they're going to try to stay alive and stay competitive in this division. But, yeah, when you say that Josh Hader, if it's a blip on the radar, the problem is every blip on his radar results in a home run. There's not a lot of singles being hit.
Yeah, so he gave up the home run today, which puts him at – he's given up 11 home runs on the year so far in 52 and a third innings worth of work. Last year he gave up 9 home runs and 81 and a third innings of work. So he's definitely giving up the long ball at a greater clip. Craig, what do you think? Is the rest of the league just kind of figuring him out at this point? Is it just kind of a weird trend? What do you contribute this to?
I guess everyone's human. Blown saves happen and whatnot, and there's always a few, even with great closers. So I'm not too concerned, but I am concerned about the entire rest of the bullpen, and the fact that we didn't significantly add to it at the trade deadline. So unfortunately, Josh Hader remains the only member of the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen that I do trust, in spite of off series in Oakland.
So
that's it. Go ahead, Scotty.
To put this into perspective, 40% of all the hits that Josh Hader gives up leave the yard. And this is easily the most trustworthy person in our bullpen. So just let that sink in for a little bit.
I feel like he doesn't give up very many hits, but yeah, that's not a good percentage.
Right. His ERA is actually lower than last year, but yeah, it is an interesting trend. Brewers have generally been more prone to give up the long ball this year than last as well, overall with the pitching staff. But Craig, you had a good segue here. You say we did not get any help in the bullpen, so I think we know your take on the trades that Brewers general manager David Stearns did make here at the deadline. But let's go over those. We had talked about Jordan Lyles coming onto the team during our last podcast. I think it had just happened at that point. Did we discuss that, guys?
Very briefly. If we did, we were very underwhelmed by it, I'm sure. I think we only discussed it.
Yeah, maybe we didn't actually discuss it. So let's talk about that. That was the first one. Did not actually happen on deadline day. It happened the day before. Former Milwaukee Brewer Jordan Lyles is sent back to Milwaukee from the Pittsburgh Pirates, where he had started off this year. Traded by Pittsburgh to the Brewers for minor leaguer Cody Ponce. Jordan Lyles started off the year pretty strongly this year, actually, in the starting rotation for Pittsburgh. But his last month and a half or so has been pretty much a complete disaster. Overall, his numbers in Pittsburgh, he was 5-7. He had posted a 5.36 ERA, started in 17 games. He has made one start now as a Brewer yesterday. He actually had a really good debut. So we do have a little bit to go on now so far with his second tenure here in Milwaukee. Guys, what do we think about that move for Jordan Lyles?
It's a familiar face. We didn't give up anything. No offense to Cody Ponce, but I don't think he's going to be a future major leaguer. And if he is, that's great. He'll be with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but obviously we had to do something to fill two massive holes in the rotation, and Jordan Lyles was essentially the not best, but easiest accessible person to acquire in the so-called bargain bin that David Stearns likes to dive into. And we knew him. We acquired him last year also, and he did a fairly good job for us. We didn't pick up his option or whatnot coming into this season. He started off very well with the Pirates this year for the first couple months of the season. Since then, he's been borderline horrific, but he did, I guess now hindsight being 2020, he didn't have a nice first start for the Brewers in Oakland, and I guess I trust him to pitch about 5 innings and not completely be terrible.
Yeah, and his numbers last year as a Brewer should have pointed out right away. He was 1-0, 3.31 ERA last year for Milwaukee in 11 games, all out of the bullpen. Scotty, what do you think? Jordan Lyles, good pickup, bad pickup, neutral pickup? What are your thoughts?
I mean, in that he's a warm body that can pitch in quote rotation. I only say that because I think at the time we only had 2 starters left in the rotation, and you can't even call it a rotation then. But yeah, I mean, having said that, it's an underwhelming move. I mean, let's just put it this way: this isn't gonna put us over the top in any kind of a way, but something obviously had to be done, and that's what we decided to do.
All right, yeah, fair enough. I'm with you guys. I think I don't think it was a bad move, just because again we needed a body. As you guys have said, we were kind of discussing on our show on Sunday who might come up, and I think all of us were a little underwhelmed by the options available to us. So certainly understand why it was done. And David Stearns has said that the injuries have definitely changed his approach here at the deadline, where he was looking for quantity probably over quality. No offense to Jordan Lyles, but seems like Stearns followed through on the quantity aspect of things here at the deadline, which brings us to our next trade. So in kind of a little bit of a surprise move, there had been a little scuttlebutt ahead of time. The Brewers traded first baseman Jesus Aguilar to the Tampa Bay Rays for pitcher Jake Faria. Jesus obviously had not started off the year like he had wanted to. He had a pretty prolonged slump for the first 2 months of the year. He had seemed to come on a little bit more as of late, but still his batting average on the year overall with Milwaukee, 225. OBP was 320. He had 8 home runs, 34 RBIs. Had seen his role at first base kind of dwindle, or splitting time with Eric Thames. But he was an all-star last year. I mean, just, in 2018, he had 35 home runs, 108 RBIs, was a pretty vital cog in our offense. What do you guys think of the trade with the Rays? Scotty?
I guess I'll say also kind of underwhelmed with it. I mean, I guess it's weird, because if you would have said at the end of last season that we were going to trade Aguilar for Jacob Faria, I'd be like, I hope we get more than that. But his value, just any value that he had, he just completely wiped out with the way he had this season going. He was hot for the last, month, 6 weeks. So that's the only reason why we could pretty much get anything. Faria, he's an okay pitcher, I guess. Fastball mostly, 92 to 94. Changeup, occasional slider, nothing special. I think he had he gets a lot of swings and misses, which I think is definitely something that Stearns values probably more than most GMs, but he's definitely had his issues.
Yeah, and should be pointed out too, Faria has he only threw in 7 games at the big league level in Tampa this year. All of the bullpen posted a 2.70 ERA. He was a starter in 2017 and 2018 with the Rays. He had made 12 starts on the year last year, posted a 5.40 ERA, 17 overall games, but 12 as a starter. So he's a guy that, he's got some experience as both a starter and as a reliever. Craig, what are your thoughts on the trade with Tampa?
Well, out of the 3 trades, and I know you're going to bring up the third one, this is by far the one I like the most. It's a little bit starting that our 2018 All-Star first baseman that had a breakout year last year, unfortunately, tanked in value so much that we had to trade him, and such a deal. Jake Faria, I'm a pretty big fan of him. I mean, he did have a nice minor league track record. He came up in 2017, had a pretty nice rookie debut with the Rays, and I really thought that he could be, a really solid, like number 3-ish type starter. However, since that time, he had a little bit of a, like Aguilar, a little bit of falling back down to earth, so to speak. And with the Rays and their kind of non-traditional bullpenning philosophy now, I just don't think that he had a role in that team anymore. So I think that they're readily willing to kind of move on from him. And apparently the Brewers were readily willing to move on from Jesus as well. And so it's like one of those really old school trades that kind of should help both teams in the long run. Both these guys are not rentals. They're cost controlled. I guess the bonus of it is I think Faria has cost controlled 1 year more than Aguilar. So, and the Brewers had a lot of first base, DH types without a DH for this season at least. And the Rays had plenty of former starting pitchers who they no longer, use in that role, and instead position them to like middle bullpen or whatever they did. And I think Jake would definitely benefit from being stretched back out and made back into a professional starter in my mind, or at least hopefully that's the first plan for him going forward, because I think we need that depth there. And of course, he was sent to AAA to start off after the acquisition. So my belief is that that's what they'll do, but I guess we'll never know until he actually starts pitching. But yeah, I mean, I like Jake Faria. I kind of sad to see Jesus Aguilar go. I mean, he really did start to pick it up in the last month, and I do think, without a doubt, this actually weakens our team for this season. But it's at a trade deadline, that's a team that's a game or two out of first place and the wild card. It's not generally something you'd want your GM to do, but I think this is actually more of a seller's move almost. But like I said, it's something to help both teams, and I was happy with this trade overall. And best wishes to Jesus, but I think we needed the arm. So.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Craig, I think you and I kind of view this a little similarly. I don't know that I would have done this trade though. The only reason that you would is just because of the absolutely desperate condition of our pitching staff. So I do get why that happens, but I really think that losing Jesus is going to be a blow to our offense. So I'm a little concerned that we haven't really talked about that as much. And I know that we desperately need pitching, but we have to really hope that the guys can, step up offensively as well.
And like I said, I think this is more of a buyer's move for the Rays, who are more solidly in the potential playoff spot for the Brewers. It seems, and more so of a seller's move for the Brewers, because I think that they're looking at Jake Faria as a long-term piece starting either this September or next year, because they did option him directly to the minor leagues, and he is a major league ready arm. He's already, I believe, 26. So, and he's had some major league experience. So there's no reason they would have sent him to AAA outside of maybe stretching him out back to a starter. And so hopefully he can contribute till this year. So again, it's one of those trades I think actually does help both teams, but I do feel overall that Jesus Aguilar has a slightly more trade value in my mind than Jake Ferry. So you hate to, have a trade where we don't get fair value, but I think it's close enough. And I think, again, starting pitcher and the arm was something we needed more at this time. So, I did like the trade.
Okay, well, fair enough. And I guess we'll get right away then to the third trade, and I think this is probably the most controversial amongst most Brewer fans. But the Brewers made a trade sending their number 4 ranked prospect, Mauricio Dubon, to the San Francisco Giants. Dubon had a brief cup of coffee up with the Brewers earlier in the month, I think just 2 at bats. But Dubon traded to the Giants for Drew Pomeranz, veteran pitcher, and Ray Black, another pitcher as well. And Black has already been assigned to AAA San Antonio. Pomeranz has been assigned to the big league roster. Scott, why don't you start? What do you think about this trade?
I don't know. I mean, I think it really, I just look at Drew Pomeranz and I see what he was for, I don't know. I mean, he was briefly a very dominant pitcher, actually. And so you kind of just hope that he's able to kind of get back to that a little bit. But as of late, he has not been the high-quality pitcher that he once was, unfortunately. So, but, maybe we'll be able to work some magic. But I think really the trade kind of hinges on that, just to see if we can help him turn things around.
Yeah. Craig, what are your thoughts?
Well, I guess I'll start by saying I did not like the return. The guys coming into our team, I don't think were worth acquiring. But I do think that Brewer fans overall were probably overrating their prospect, Mauricio Dubon, a little bit. He really does, to me, profile as potentially a starting second baseman or shortstop at the major league level, but more than likely a utility player along the lines of Hernan Perez, who the Brewers moved on from as a long-term career trajectory. You never know. I mean, he has hit very well the last 2 seasons in the upper minors, so there's a good chance he could be a MLB regular, and those aren't the type of guys you want to give up in a trade like this, because Drew Pomeranz, no one wanted to sign him, including the Brewers this offseason, after he had a really terrible year with the Red Sox last year. I mean, 2 years ago, he actually won 17 games, I believe, and put up a pretty solid season. And for the left-hander, who's, I think, 29 right now, he has some promising he has some promise to bounce back to that type of season, but, no team other than the Giants wanted him, and he couldn't even stick in the rotation this year. So he really kind of flamed out for them, and they moved him to the bullpen. He did fairly well. And, but if you look at another guy that was rumored to be traded at the deadline that everyone supposedly was hot after, a guy like Zach Wheeler. Now, he's right-handed, about the same age as Drew Pomeranz, has a little bit better track record, but in my opinion, talent-wise, he's probably about the same on par with Zach Wheeler, and I'm sure it would have taken a lot more prospects than just Mauricio Dubon to land Zach Wheeler, and that's why he didn't get moved. But I'm not sure what the Mets are doing exactly. But anyway, they didn't end up trading any of their pitchers. But I mean, the similar. In my mind, they're both free agents after this season. They're both cheap for this season and the last year of arbitration eligibility, and they're both going to, be free agents once again. But, we acquired Pomeranz, and he's left-handed. So I like the option to use him either in the as a starter, which we may have to do out of desperation until guys get healthy, like Woodruff, and then have the opportunity to transition them into the bullpen later, like in September or whatnot, to use as a left-hander out of the bullpen. So I guess with all that being said, I still just am very underwhelmed by this trade. And I guess just to sum up the entire deadline activity by Stearns, His job as GM is to make sure that, we have the best players at the major league level, and that's really his main focus. Obviously, you always have to consider the farm system in mind. I don't think he did not give up, Trent Grisham or Corey Ray or Bryce Strang or any of our real best potential prospects. And Dubon was up there with those guys, but I think he was probably the most expendable because I think we're sticking with Arcia at shortstop moving forward, and obviously here at solidified second base. So there wasn't a huge need in the organization for Dubon, so he made sense to move on from. I just felt like I wish he would have targeted someone else. And again, you don't know what happens behind the scenes, but a guy that got moved at the trade deadline for very little, is a guy like Aaron Sanchez of the Blue Jays, who just a few years ago led the AL and ERA, and I feel still has some potential upside. And not only that, but even more team control beyond this year. And it just saddens me that the Brewers, I guess, didn't ever try to, in the last couple of deadlines, try to target a starting pitcher with more than just, more than one season of team control. A young starter with some upside, and they just didn't have the ammunition to possibly get it done. So it is what it is.
Yeah, well, like you point out, maybe just it's that Dubon wasn't rated as highly amongst other GMs as maybe Brewer fans wanted him to be or thought that he might be. So I don't know. I think in an ideal situation, Dubon would have gone in a package deal for a better top-line starting pitcher, of course. But, the depth of the Brewers' farm system is becoming a problem. I think that the injury to Corey Ray earlier this year probably hurt quite a bit in the sense that he was not really viewed as being as tradable of a prospect as maybe he was last year when he was having a real breakout season in Double-A. So I think that did cost the Brewers. And we didn't want to part with Keston Hiura. So it really came down to Dubon being an expendable chip, that maybe we just didn't have the other pieces to package for a better frontline starter. As far as the guys that we actually acquired, we should point out that Black is going to start his career in the minor leagues with the Brewers, and Pomeranz has not yet made an appearance as a Brewer, but he is with the team at the big league level. So maybe he can recapture some of his success from 2017, and maybe David Stearns sees something in him that can be corrected and kind of brought back to where he was a couple seasons ago. So overall, I mean, I'm going to give Stearns a C, I think, on the deadline. What grade would you guys give him?
Go with a C minus. It wasn't
C minus.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess Stearns isn't really the type to necessarily like overreach and deplete our farm system any more than he has to. I mean, he hasn't ever like pushed all in and gotten that big player to hopefully, get us over the top. But this year versus last year, I mean, it just seems like it's night and day. I mean, not just record wise, but last year I believe I was saying last year that I thought that it was like possibly the deepest Brewer team in my lifetime. I mean, it was so great to, if somebody down, somebody else was going to be able to step right back up. And from whether it's the starting rotation or the bullpen, like that's just not happening at all this year. And so it's,
Well, just to illustrate the point and the difference between the 2018 Milwaukee Brewers and 2019 Milwaukee Brewers, let's see, Zach Davies, Chase Anderson, and Jordan Lyles, who are now 3/5 of our rotation as we speak, all were left off the postseason roster for the Brewers. So they're now anchoring our entire rotation. So the different, I mean, it's like the team from last year, pitching size, this doesn't even exist. You're missing Corey Knable. You're missing whatever the 2018 version of Jeremy Jeffers is not here this year. I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, Wade
Miley.
Wade Miley, in all seriousness. I mean,
and Wade Miley is also just
staple for a rotation.
Let go because of that. So I mean,
no, he was let go. He was let go because he heard what you said on the podcast, Craig. That's why he was let go.
Gio Gonzalez. Gio was also basically half left off the roster because he exited with phantom injury, I believe, in the playoffs too. So
I think there was like 6 trades between July and August last year. There was at least 6 trades that Stearns made, and now this year, I guess technically he made the 3. and the amount of quality of player that and was more of, I mean, basically he was plugging holes. I mean, we also had massive holes in our rotation. We had to use some of our actual depth at the major league level and Jesus to actually plug a hole. Whereas last year we were piling depth on top of depth and acquiring guys like Curtis Stranderson when we really didn't need them, but it was a nice luxury to have going in, knowing that we were hoping to go in the playoffs. That type of veteran player is really nice to have off the bench. We didn't have the luxury of like looking for guys like that this year because we weren't in that like power position that we're just like solidifying our playoff roster. That's what it seemed like last year. Even though we, of course, weren't guaranteed a playoff spot until we actually got in last year. It just felt like we had such a great team last year. And this team just seems to be, outside of obviously Christian Yelich, who's somehow having a better season than his MVP season last year, outside of him and obviously Moustakas has been a great addition, and even Grandal. But outside of those guys, I mean, really there's been just disappointment all over the place on the roster. So what can you do?
Well, I know we only just have a couple minutes left here. I would like to thank our anonymous source, Tom Carter, he did predict the Jesus trade to Tampa, so that was pretty impressive. So, well, special thanks to our anonymous source, Tom Carter, for that. And
Vince?
Yeah.
So he did say that after the fact, like we could definitely like let people know, like he'd already, we can even tell people that, we had heard rumblings about the trade, but he didn't want us to say his name even after the fact because he would lose his anonymity. I know it's kind of.
I just thought we couldn't say our anonymous source, Tom Carter, is saying this like ahead of time, but I thought that after the fact, like, hey, Tom Carter, our anonymous source said, I thought it was okay to use it in that order.
I think he wants us to like kind of future-proof it so that next time he has more insider information for us, then we won't.
Okay.
People won't be.
He's actually a pretty humble guy. He doesn't really want credit at all. He just said that we can say the stuff and we can even take credit for him. But
we'll do better next time. But speaking of non-humble, I would also like to thank our colleague Tom Hodgecourt, who posted an article that stated a blatantly wrong fact that Mauricio Dubon was the first player from Honduras to appear in the big leagues. That distinction actually goes to former Houston Astros outfielder Gerald Young. And when called out on this fact, he did end up blocking our account. But, you win some, you lose some. I'm sure our colleague was just having a bad day. It's not like he's always –
No, was Gerald Young ever a Brewer?
No. Gerald Young was an Astro.
Okay, because I know that you're big on the whole Brewer fraternity. And Mauricio Dubon did did he have like 2 at-bats as a Brewer?
Yeah, 2 at-bats. So Dubon is officially an all-time Brewer. Yes, sir.
And so – as much of an idiot as that guy just mentioned is, the beat writer for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, I forget his name, Tom H. or something.
It's our colleague.
Anyway,
yeah.
I guess he technically is the first and only Brewer that to be born in.
No. He said first Major League Baseball player. That's what he said. First Major League Baseball player.
Oh, that's just idiotic. It's completely wrong.
Right, that's what I said. Yeah. So anyway, we're not going to thank him as much as our anonymous source, Tom Carter. But
he might not get a Christmas card this year. We gave him one before, but
a Christmas card. He'll still get a Christmas card. It's going to be like that.
Well, I guess we are classy after all.
Yeah, definitely. Well, guys, this has been a good show. Thanks for the analysis here. Thanks for all your support out there, fans. Please give us a follow at Brew Crew Review 1 at Twitter. Continue sending your questions to us via email as well, brewcrewreviewpodcast with an S at gmail.com.
Hey, I got one more thing I wanted to say too. If you're listening to this podcast right now, like that's awesome. And we totally thank you guys. And, we definitely appreciate it. And we appreciate it even more if you throw out those 5-star reviews because they really help us a lot. But more importantly than that, I'm legally obligated to say that. But even more important than that, like we have some really great podcasts from former Major League Baseball players, former Milwaukee Brewers that are just they're just really, really great just chats with a lot of these guys. And every single one of them was just a phenomenal interview. Every single one of these guests was just an absolute pleasure to just listen to them spin yarns about their playing days. And I still go back and listen to them because they're so entertaining. So really, seriously, like just go back and check some of those out.
Yeah, good call, Scotty. Absolutely. And we'll continue to bring you more interviews with players, both current and former Milwaukee Brewers, as the weeks go on here. Obviously, during the season, we're a little more focused on content that's going on the field, but we will continue to bring you those as we can. So, all right. Well, with that, thanks, guys, for coming on the set. Thank you to our co-host, Chad Collins, wherever he is tonight. And remember to stay classy and go Brewers. Big series coming up here, guys.
Go Brewers, sweep those Cubs.
That's right.
Miller Park.
Stay classy, Wisconsin.
Yeah, let's do it.
Da, 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 da.